Back at the week in high school sports. Brought to you by St. Anthony Rehab Services. Here's Sports Director Jeff Blankman, John Ryan, and Jeff Honnold.
Welcome to another edition of KCIM Sports Rewind here on a rainy, dismal, dreary Tuesday morning. Kind of the same story, different week going on here. It's Sports Director Jeff Blankman, Jeff Honnold, and John Ryan along with you, along with somebody who's going to class up the joint, we hope. Right? Right? And Blankman, you booked the guest this week,
hope
right?
in there like you're not sure.
Well, I work with you guys every week, so I always hold out hope, but generally I walk away disappointed.
It's a low bar.
It is. If you set the bar low, you're never really all that disappointed. So, Jeff Blankman, tell us who we have in studio with us this morning.
We have Allison Schweers with us here today. Allison, of course, a former Kemper grad and over at DMAC Golfing, has just graduated from DMAC and going to be heading up to BV. She has been a tremendous golfer for her entire career. So we appreciate her joining us.
She was at the Cattleman's golf outing on Friday, and she happened to be working in the same area. Well, I'm going to set up a tent near a beer cart. I mean, that was pretty simple math, and she was running the beer cart. But she was bored, so she got out her clubs and starts chipping. And she drops 3 chips on the tee-off block within an inch of each other. I couldn't have done that if I walked up there and dropped them.
That's what you call practice, I'm assuming, right, Allison? Is that the deal there?
Oh, yeah. Always
I'm
practicing.
going to need you to pull the microphone over a little bit closer to you. There you go. So, yeah, always practicing. That's what it kind of takes. I mean, so talk about your career so far. I went to DMAC. A lot of success going on there.
My first year, we had a couple good players, so I was playing as like the 3 spot. And had a lot of success. We qualified at Otter Creek in Ankeny, and that's where I went to Mesa after, can't remember what place I took. And then we went down there for a week and played 6 days of golf in the hot weather, but it was a lot of fun.
I was going to say, that's the dream, isn't it? When you kind to play golf on the next level, I mean, just let me golf every day.
Oh, yeah. It was a lot of fun, but at the end I was ready to be done. I was tired.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm. And then this year in the fall, we went up to Mason City, and I actually took 5th place there. And then in the spring, I was just as successful as my first year. Went to Ankeny, Otter Creek, qualified to go to Daytona Beach for nationals. Was there for a week. Our first day, we actually rained out, but we played 3 tournament days, and I had a lot of fun. I think I'd rather go to Florida again than Mesa.
A little tourism for Florida advertisement there.
So you mentioned that first year down in Mesa, you were kind of ready to be done. How tough is it to golf in college as far as having the split seasons and the weather up here not always great, so you're battling weather and everything really bad probably in the spring?
Yeah. It's hard. It was hard for us to play tournaments. We were always trying to find something in Kansas or even like Nebraska, just because there was snow on the ground here. Like, I think it was our first weekend in Ankeny, there was still snow on the ground and we still played. And I know the one day they say it was like cold and windy. I don't remember that, but yeah.
What was the biggest adjustment you had to make going from high school to college? I mean, what did you have to work on, know that you had to improve on?
The competition's definitely one step higher. Even down at nationals, we were playing schools that are down south, so they play all year round. So they're shooting under par, maybe a little over par, nothing bad. But yeah, the competition, and then coaches always were harping at us for short game, chipping and putting.
It's kind of why they get paid.
Yeah, yeah.
So they can harp at you all the time.
But our practices were always an hour with the coaches, and then we always spent like an hour and a half out on the course by ourselves, either playing, working the 50 to 100-yard range, putting. We were constantly doing short game stuff, and I think that's where my game really improved, and that's where I was able to like save some of my strokes.
So you literally played all over the country. Do you notice any differences in the courses as you travel around the country? There are certain features like down south that you don't find a lot here in Iowa that you had to get used to?
Oh, yeah. When we went to Mesa, we had the fairway, which was grass, and then everything else was desert. And I had a few shots where I had to hit out of the desert, and
Did it play with your mind a lot?
A little bit. I know I was afraid that like I wouldn't hit the ball as good, but I ended up still getting out of them fine. But I think that's the main difference was the grass and what like the troubles are different than up here.
Mm-hmm. All the hazards.
Yeah, but like down in Florida,
Like snakes.
Yeah, I saw a few of those in Mesa.
You don't find a lot of alligators and snakes on the courses up here,
no.
so. Yeah, that is funny. But how about the other golfers out there? I mean, would you guys have kind of like a bond when you're out there at those national tournaments, or is it pretty competitive? Everybody keeps to themselves and their teams.
There's a little bit of like friendships being formed. I know when we were down in Florida, there was a girl from Iowa Western that I've played with both my years, and the one night I hung out in her hotel room. I mean, you just form those types of relationships that once like I left, I'm like, I really am gonna miss this.
You mentioned, getting to play around the country. What are some of the favorite courses that you got to play through these first 2 years in college?
I would say I definitely liked the LPGA International. We played the Hills course. That's where nationals were this year. Other than that, I mean, it's just the two national courses I played that I really enjoyed them. It was something different, and
The distances on those are much greater than the courses you play throughout the regular season, or are they pretty comparable?
I think it's pretty comparable. In order for our tournaments to count as a tournament, I think our yardage have to be between close to 6,000. So it might have been played a little longer, but it never affected me because I was still playing my same game.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Talk about you're moving on to BVU right now. What was that like? I mean, how did you get in contact with BVU? And did you have any other options? I know you mentioned one other school that I'm not going to mention here, but if you want to mention it, that's fine. But talk about that, the recruitment, and why you chose BV.
So in the fall for DMAC, we actually play a tournament up in Storm Lake, the BV Invite, and that's where Coach Janet Berry, she saw me, she followed a little bit, and then after I got back, she contacted me saying she enjoyed watching me play, would like me up there my junior year. So for about 5-6 months, I battled between either the University of Iowa or BV. And I thought about it, and in the end, I couldn't hang up my clubs yet. I wasn't done competing.
So if it was Iowa, you'd be done with golf.
Yep, it would be strictly academics at Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
But I made the decision in March that I was going to go play golf for BV, and they had my accounting program. They had everything I needed. So I made the decision in March and going to go play.
Now, what is it about the golf program up there? I mean, what are they going to do for you as a player? How are they going to make you better? What do you feel like they're going to do for you?
Coach has talked to me a couple of times. She and her husband both work together, and they'll work with the swing. They'll try and help me shave strokes here and there. But yeah, they're going to help me do to improve my game pretty much.
So do you get to go up there during the summer and play with them and have them do a little bit ahead of time, or do you have to wait till you enroll?
I think I'll probably wait until I enroll to go up there. They said I could go up there and play. They'll get me on. So, but other than that, once I move in is when we'll start practice.
Where do you feel like you need to improve still?
I think it's still short game and a couple of my irons, but just to get everything to smooth and help me shave those strokes off and make my game better.
Isn't it always the short game? Doesn't it always come down to that?
Pretty much. That's what every coach will harp at is short game.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get such a love for the game of golf? Your whole family seems to be passionate about it.
Yeah. I think it's probably came from my dad. When we were younger, I actually started off playing T-ball, pee-wee, that stuff, and Dad said you can either do that or you play golf 4 times a week. So we dropped the bat and ball and picked up the club. But I started playing golf when I was really young and have just enjoyed doing it ever since.
What's the best tip you can give? Say there's a high school kid out there right now that really is kind of falling in love with the game of golf. What's the best tip you can give them early as far as either playing the game or how they approach the game? What's been the best advice you've ever gotten? See, I asked the hard questions. See, I'm going to tell you right now.
I told her we wouldn't be that deep.
I would just say, like, just go out and have fun. Like, don't worry about, I know, like, I've had, like, mentality. Just don't worry about, just keep moving on. Don't worry
Don't
about
take it
that.
off the course with you.
No, just don't worry about, like, that last bad shot because you have many
if she played
more.
with me, then she'd have amnesia.
So who gets bragging rights, you or Katie, when you guys play?
Oh, she's not going to like me, but I think it's probably me. But, I mean, we both play pretty close, so.
So what's it like when you go out with the whole family? Is it competitive? Is it pretty laid back? How is that?
It can be competitive sometimes. I know my brother doesn't like playing with me. If Dad,
Why would that be? Just because it's that competitive?
I think it's more like I go through my same routine, and he doesn't like that. It takes too much time.
The whole patience thing then.
No, yeah. But if Dad's playing, like I'll move back to the white tees with him and play with him, and my sister, she'll either do the same or she'll play from the reds, but just make a little fun game out of it.
Do they ever take you back to the blues, trying to make it even harder for you?
I haven't tried that yet, but I probably should.
What are some of those rounds that stick out for you? I mean, you've had to have some of those rounds that are like everything's working. I mean, tell us about those times, because none of us know what that feels like. So
It's a good feeling when everything is going well. I know in the fall when we went up to Mason City, I think I shot an 80 up there, and that everything was working good. Granted, they shortened a couple of the holes, but like I was hitting good, I was chipping good, putts were going in, and even down in Daytona Beach, the first day that we played, I played good. I was happy. I'm like, okay, this isn't as bad. Next, like coaches said, like as long as you're playing, like don't worry about everyone else. Just play within like the region. And like I played right with them, and like they were all saying the course was tough. They didn't like the course, and I'm like, I love it. It fit my game, and I love it. I like it when everything's going well.
So when it's going like that, do you have the confidence just knowing every shot? You walk up to it going, oh, I can put it here? Is that what you were feeling? Is it everything, this is easy, I'll just swing and this is what's going to happen?
Yeah, pretty much.
See,
like,
I don't know that for me.
I know what will happen right when I step over the ball. I know where I want to put it. You know, sometimes it'll happen.
Usually two. Usually it's clear to the right.
It's like 2 holes away. But you just said here that course fits your game. What is your game?
So, in high school, I was always playing like a fade, sometimes a slice, but coaches at DMAC finally got me playing a draw, and everything down in Daytona, there's trouble on the right. I think that's what might have gotten a couple of the girls into trouble. And with my draw, I was able to like start it off the right, and it'd draw right in, and I would have sometimes a good shot to go for the green or do whatever I needed to do to get that low score.
as you're stepping up for a shot, are you running through this stuff in your head every time, or are you just saying, okay, just put a good swing on the ball? I mean, are you constantly thinking that way, or is it just let the game speak for itself?
I think it's a little bit of both. Like, if I have a coach standing next to me, like, I'll talk the shot through with them. Like, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to aim. And they'll tell me just put a good swing on it. Like, you were thinking right. So, I mean, I do both. I think what I need to do and how, like, my swing needs to go to get that good shot.
So what's more pressure, to recover after a bad shot, or to not mess up after a really good shot, or standing over that putt? Which one's worse?
Both.
Because I stress over all of it. So
I know. It's like like the pressure will get to me sometimes if there's trouble, like water or hazard that I have to clear. Like I think I'm like, okay, I gotta put a good swing on this to get it to go, and sometimes that gets me in trouble.
See, that's where I would be good. I've watched the U.S. Open. I want to hit those guys a shot out of trouble because I'm golden there. That's all I know. It's the fairway shots that eat me alive.
It's the ones there with all the green around you that
never
give
been
you
there.
the problem. So, well, Allison, tell you what, thanks so much for spending some time with us. Good luck at BV. And when does everything start for you next year at Buena Vista?
I move in is the 17th, and we have team meal that day, and then practice starts right up.
It's off and going.
Yep, we play 7 weekends, and then we play conference, which is actually down in Ames Country Club.
Okay.
So,
You know that one well.
a little bit.
Yeah. How about the springtime? Do you guys get much golf in the springtime at all?
A little bit. I think it depends on the weather. And I think the majority of our season at BV is in the fall and a little bit in the spring because we conferences in the fall. So I think we play everything in the fall to prepare us.
All right. Well, I tell you what, good luck. We'll be following you along the way. And so once again, good luck at Buena Vista University.
Thank you.
All right, Katie Schweers, or Allison Schweers, I'm sorry, joining us here. See, you messed me up with Katie there for a while ago. Allison Schweers joining us here on KCIM Sports Read.
It's at your house.
It is KCIM Sports Rewind. Our thanks to Allison Schweers once again joining us here, and just kind of mild-mannered, unassuming, but
Brave lady.
yeah.
But you know what? You get her on the golf course, and there's a killer instinct that comes
Yeah.
out in her. She's really good.
I got so good at golf, I started biking. I quit golf completely. So,
I'm not a quitter.
yeah. You know,
Should be.
after about 4 years when my golf game didn't improve at all, I'm like, maybe this golfing thing isn't going to work out after all. So I took a bike, and I've never gotten off the bike and went, well, that was awful. What?
I've never gotten on a bike and
I
said it wasn't.
I feel better about myself when I get off the bike.
Huh.
Yeah, I'm in too much pain when I get off.
Yeah, I'm the opposite.
It's all in the bike shorts, man.
See,
Nobody
you
wants to wear them, but
Oh,
you need them.
no.
I will say this: the sad thing is you're complaining about your golf game. You were 30 strokes better than me. So what's that say about mine?
Well, I didn't have a baseball swing on the golf course, so I at least tried to have a little form.
Yes.
We had to talk about one of the local guys doing very, very well in his college visits. Gage Gunderson, going to be a senior this, or Blaze, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Once again, doing very well in his college recruits. Just at the University of Nebraska, you shared an article about that, and they were just knocked out.
Yeah, I follow what's going on over there very, very closely and listen and read every day about things. And I
See that? He reads every day.
yes, I do.
He's reading about Nebraska. That doesn't count.
You owe me $10. I said he read every day.
But I tell you what, they've really been kind of in love with him and his game and how he would fit their system over there since they started recruiting him, and that passion for him just continues to grow. I was listening to a little podcast last night while I was here doing the baseball, softball stuff, and several of the guys on there said that these are guys that cover Nebraska very closely. They were there, and they were like, he was the best player at the entire camp.
Yeah, that
He
means just
stood
they said
out.
flat
Yeah,
out.
absolutely. So,
And he was even telling other guys, this is how you do it.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. And if you saw some of the video that was put out, man, he is quick off the ball, uses his hands extremely well. I don't envy any high school offensive linemen that are going to have to try and keep him from getting to the quarterback and to the running back this year because he's gonna be kind of hard to handle at times.
I'm not sure how you're going to do it. I don't think a double team is going to work.
Yeah.
Well, you run the other way.
Yeah, but he's got the athleticism to be able to run him down. I think the interesting thing too is he goes to Iowa State this weekend, so it'll be interesting. I would not be shocked to see him verbal, within the next month or so. I think he wants to get it done. I occasionally talk to him. I try not to pester him too much, or I did have a parent come up to me the other day at the softball tournament at Wall Lake, and they're like, "So how hard are you recruiting Blaze for Nebraska?" And I says, "Honestly, I'm not. I'll text him every now and then or whatever and say, how did the trip go? Those kind of things. But, he asked me way back when the whole recruiting thing started to not bug him, and I've done that. So I'm allowing it to kind of play out, and I don't need to recruit him. Coach Frost and Coach Chenander can do I'm
pretty
a good
sure they
enough
got it under
job
control
of doing that, but They were talking last night that he'll probably start off as an outside linebacker, but with his athleticism and his frame, they think he can get up into that 280 range and be a DN before his career's over and not lose any of that speed or strength or athleticism. So he might be a guy that starts off on the outside as a linebacker and then eventually kind of moves up to the line a little bit and uses that athleticism.
They had a photo of Blaze, in the Nebraska shirt as he was in that camp. I mean, what a physical specimen.
Oh, yeah.
When he walked in here the other day with khakis on and a hoodie, it was really kind of hard to tell. But, I mean, the guy is just absolutely everything those coaches dream they would be coming in.
Well, I tell you this. I did see him getting over to the football stadium the other night. I was getting ready to go call a game, and I hollered at him and went over and had a brief conversation. And when I shook his hand, my hand is still trying to recover. He's just a strong kid.
Down to Iowa State, and Nebraska, correct?
Yeah, well, from what I had understood, he was kind of down to 2, Iowa State and Nebraska. Correct. But I don't think you can ever count Kirk Ferentz out in this state.
No.
And the other school,
especially with their reputation as defensive linemen and things like that in the NFL.
And the other school that I know if they would ever throw their name into the hat that would probably cause some ripples would be Notre Dame. I think if Notre Dame would ever throw in an offer, I think that's a place that he would take a serious look at.
And it's not like they hadn't noticed him; they just haven't done it seriously. So,
yes, they haven't offered. Yep. So, but
a lot of camps yet going on.
Yeah. Yep.
I know I got a nephew that's going to be going down to K-State, so that's kind of that
I
time
think
of year.
they have to wrap up by the end of this month, if I remember correctly. So, and that's why you'll see probably a lot of people starting to verbal late this month, early next month. So
yeah, and the verbal, again, just kind of gives you an indication, but it's not that it's far from being final.
Until they sign on the dotted line in December or in February or whatever, on the 2 signing dates, you don't know for sure. So.
All right. So that's a latest update on Blaze Gunderson, a little interesting article that was written about him in the Omaha paper. And they also said, by the way, one of his best friends was a big wide receiver out of Omaha.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, they're really kind of tight right now, and they're both going to be visiting Iowa State, so they might be a package deal. They said they're that tight.
Well, that'll be the interesting thing. He's really good friends with Tyler Miller, Peyton Chardin kid that's now at Greene County, and Tyler's at Iowa State. But I also know that there's several guys in this recruiting class that have already verbal to Nebraska that Blaze has become very close with. They talk on a very regular basis that are really trying to pull him, towards Lincoln as well. So they got a 4-star, could be 5-star offensive lineman that verbal to Nebraska, and he is probably the guy that's recruiting Blaze harder than anybody, and it sounds like those two have become pretty tight. So it'll be interesting.
Well, we'll see how well the red carpet is rolled out at Iowa State. I'm sure it's going to be no holds barred.
Maybe Blaze takes them the other way. You never know.
You never know. Yeah.
We'll be back. More KCIM Sports Rewind. 1380 AM, 95.1 FM, KCIM. Catch a podcast. Our special guest was Allison Schweers a little bit earlier on this half hour. Former Kemper golf standout, going to be heading to BVU after a good career with DMAC, so congratulations to her. Also, we got a little baseball, softball to talk about. But first, you got to love this. Minor League Baseball. I mean, even like the merchants, they got
some of the craziest things.
They got like the ugly or the dirtiest car contest.
Dirtiest car, that's a good
that was
one.
pretty funny, yeah. It's like,
they said I'm not eligible.
Yeah, everybody, they announced the license plate, and it's like everybody's like, oh, cracked windshield, whatever. It's like, nope, you have the dirtiest car in the parking lot, so you get that free car wash. There was a minor league team out of Kentucky they had for Father's Day, I believe it was.
Yes, it was Father's Day.
Dad bod jerseys. Dad bod is all the latest thing, right? But these were anatomically correct
jerseys. Yes, they were.
of a dad, without a shirt on, the chest hair, the back hair, everything on the jersey. It was horrific and awesome all at the same time.
You look at it, the first view I had was a guy at second base like, is that camo he's wearing? And then when they start running, like, oh no, that is not right.
So where do you find? Can you Google and find pictures of those jerseys?
I saw it on Twitter.
Did you?
Okay.
I saw it on the prep this morning. There's some pictures on there, and just them playing, and it just looks.
It's wrong.
Like I said,
it's
wrong,
all kinds of wrong
and awesome at the same time. So none of the local teams going to be sporting those anytime soon, though.
I would hope not.
You know what? I wonder what it'd take to get Waddle to actually put those on the guys. Of all the coaches,
I don't think John would have Yeah.
He might.
He might, yeah.
He might.
We'll get him in contact with him.
I'll have to call John, see if he'd do it.
Yeah.
Latest baseball, softball news. What do you got going on this week? Who's hot? Who's not? Who's doing well?
I tell you what. Speaking of Coon Rapids Bayard and their baseball team, 14-3 right now, sitting at 12th in Class 1A, just outside the top 10. Been playing really, really well. Got a nice win over Cam last week. Got a kind of a crazy finish against Exira Elkhorn Kimballton, where they were able to get 2 unearned runs on a strikeout to win the game. They struck out and catcher dropped the ball because it was in the dirt and threw it over the head of the first baseman, and the 2 runners came in to score, so they were able to get a win that way. Kemper girls softball team last night had kind of a crazy finish as well. They had ended up have Lewis Central loaded the bases with 1 out. Line drive to Allie Mert. She caught it, threw the runner out at first for the double play to get out of trouble. So they win that one 1-0 and preserve the shutout.
You know, I talked to John Waddle over the winter, and he was excited about this team. You kind of, if you've been around him long enough, you can kind of read him, and he was downplaying it. But I finally got out of him. He knew if his pitching came around, his young pitching, that he would be. This is a team that would be pretty good. And it sounds like his pitching has been pretty solid all year long.
Yeah, it certainly has been. And the neat thing about what they do is they really develop a lot of pitchers. So they've got a lot of different guys that can throw. They're always going to have their 2 or 3 aces, but they're one of those programs that can throw 6 or 7 guys at you and be competitive with
Just
that.
the fact they have 2 or 3 aces should tell you something about that program.
Yeah, absolutely. Arweva baseball playing pretty well right now. Again, another young team, so they've had some up and down moments. We've got a lot of our baseball and our softball team sitting kind of around that 500 mark on the season right now. We've got a lot of really young teams, and I think you're gonna see that. Everybody's battling. Everybody will go out and have a really good game, and then they kind of come back maybe the next game and struggle a little bit. But, hopefully we can keep some of these young kids out and start to develop a little bit of, seniors on teams and stuff like that.
Especially on the baseball side, though, you see it where maybe they have to just bring a pitcher in, a young pitcher, a freshman, to throw in there because they run out of arms for the week because they've played so many. So you really see those lopsided if somebody gets in a little bit of trouble, and they can't take them out. They don't have anybody to put in there.
Yeah, Kemper's baseball pitching really well right now. Hitting has been up and down. Defensively, they've been up and down a little bit. I like the way, even though Carroll's not getting a ton of wins right now, I mean, they played 7th-ranked Ballard the other day and lost just 4-0. This is a team that probably, talking with the kids in the postgame afterwards, they were like, yeah, we'd have probably gotten 10 runs, by these guys a year ago because they gave up a 3-run second inning and then held them to 1 hit the rest of the game after that. So it's a team that certainly has come on and is playing much better. Hopefully we'll get some bigger crowds to come out and start kind of watching them and cheering them on. That'll help out as well.
I think all these area schools are going to make a run here when we get into playoff times. Most of them are playing pretty good ball and should be able to at least get a round or 2 in there and make a run.
By the way, I'm going to say kudos to those kids from Carroll High, and Boone, who came in that night with the Play for Caden effort going on. That was spectacular from those kids, and just a very classy move by that program.
Yeah, absolutely, and that you could see the care that the kids had and the compassion that they had for the family and what was going on that night. So that was really neat.
Yeah, I think it's a young group at Carroll High that's played a lot of baseball, and I think they're starting to get it. They're starting to figure it out. So I look for them to be really be a tough out when it comes to playoff time.
Yeah, and softball-wise right now, Glidden's struggling a little bit because they've got some injuries to their pitching staff. And they're trying to battle through it. They were the one team that was ranked coming into the year. But they've kind of had a tough year so far. Coon had a tough one last night, went over and played one of the perennial teams in Collins-Maxwell and had kind of a tough outing. Right now, I would probably say that the Carroll and the Kemper teams are probably the 2 softball teams playing better than anybody else right now on the softball diamonds.
All right, that is KCIM Sports Rewind this week. And once again, catch a podcast available at 1380kcim.com. And, of course, our live stream feed with the help of our friends from Johnston Communications. Look for that, once again, either on the Johnston Communications Facebook page or our KCIM Facebook page. We'll be back next week, 9:30, with KCIM Sports Rewind.